Welcome, and in this video we are going to talk about polynomials, and then in later videos we're going to talk about factoring. So our main goal right here in this video series is to talk about how to combine and factor polynomials. So we're going to combine polynomials by adding, subtracting, and multiplying, not dividing. That's a little bit different, and we're not going to focus on that. And then we are going to sort of undo multiplication using something called factoring, which you may have seen before, and we're going to restrict our focus to quadratic equations. And we're going to talk about 4 different factoring methods using GCF, grouping, and special forms and general factoring methods. And technically we're going to spend a lot of time on quadratics, but we're going to actually deal with higher degree polynomials as well. One important note here is that there are special factor forms for sum and difference of cubes. We're not going to worry about those in this course. Alright, so next is just a little bit of review. So we saw this diagram from in a previous video, so you might remember there, where we discussed some vocab. And so just so we're all on the same page with vocab, we talked about constants, variables, terms, and coefficients. And so here, remember that constants are the real numbers associated to each of these terms, right? So the different terms are boxed in purple here. And then within each term, there are variables, so x and y, etc., and z, and then constants, and those constants we typically call coefficients. Okay, another name for the constants when variables are present. And the other special thing about terms is that terms are going to be separated by addition and subtraction. So technically this negative 2 is minus 2, so that's a subtraction sign as well. Okay. So now this whole thing that we saw oh so long ago is actually called a polynomial. Okay, and a polynomial has a couple different caveats. It can either be a single term, or it can be multiple different terms added by addition or joined by addition and subtraction. If it's a single term, we actually call that a monomial. Okay, monomial. Okay, mono, one. Okay, and so then within those terms, though, the terms that have variables in them have to have exponents that are integers. Okay, so -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. in both directions. Okay, no fractions or irrational numbers. Okay, so just some examples here. An example of a polynomial: 2x. Yep. 2x plus 1. Yep. X squared plus 3x. Sure. We can say x to the minus 1. Yeah, that's fine. And also a constant like 5 is a polynomial. Something that is not a polynomial: square root of x. Absolute value of x. Okay, and then you can start to do really wonky things, and maybe some of you have seen trigonometry before, maybe sine of x. Okay, these other functions are not considered polynomials. Okay, and also we might even see it at some point like 2 to the x. Okay, notice here the exponent is variable, where it says the exponent has to be an integer. Okay, a couple more definitions here before we get going. Degree of a term is the sum of the variable exponents. Okay, so in our example up top here, this term has a degree of 4, and this has a degree of 3, and this one, again, there's an imaginary 1 there, so this one has a degree of 1. Now, that's fine to talk about degree of a term, but we typically talk about degree of the polynomial, and that's the largest of all the largest of the degrees. So in the example up here, we had 4, 3, and 1 as the individual degrees of the different terms. The overall degree of the polynomial is going to be 4. It's the highest one. Not the sum, not the difference, just the highest. Okay? And so then this video is a lot of vocab, as you might have picked up. There's also other terminologies here with binomial and trinomial. I talked about monomial, right? Monomial. Okay? It's a polynomial. So this monomial is a polynomial with one term. Okay, and then instead of the prefix mono, we add binomial for 2 terms, trinomial for 3 terms. Okay, so you get the point. Okay, and you would think you'd continue going with 4 terms. No, we just say that's a polynomial. Okay, so then in this example, I want you to pause the video. I have some questions here. I want you to try and answer them before I go through them. Okay, well, I'm going to just kind of buzz through these. So pause, rewind me as needed. Why is it a polynomial? Okay, it has many different terms. Yep. It has the terms are joined by addition and subtraction. That's great. And the terms with variables all have integer exponents. So 5, 1, okay, 2, 2, 1 and or 4 and 1, okay. Everything's an integer. Okay, number of terms, 3. Number of identify the coefficients, okay, in order from left to right, 6, 3, and -1. Now, where'd that -1 come from? Well, okay, there's a minus here, and then we can always insert a 1 without changing the value, okay, because it's multiplying by 1, right? Degree of the polynomial. Now, this one might take a little bit of thought. First term has a degree of 5, second one has a degree of 4, and then this next one, because the x to the first and y to the fifth, has a degree of 6. So then overall, the degree of the polynomial is 6, the highest one. Okay, write the polynomial in descending order. Typically when we do that, when we say descending, it's from largest degree to smallest degree. So I would write negative xy to the fifth plus 6x to the fourth y plus 3x squared y squared. Okay, and now the leading coefficient. Okay, now this is perhaps a little confusing. So the 6, 3, and then -1, these were all coefficients. The leading coefficient is the coefficient of the highest degree term. So again, get that in your notes if you need to. Leading coefficient is the coefficient of the highest degree term. And in this case, it's just going to be that -1. Okay. So this video introduced a lot of vocabulary that we're going to get used to as we progress through our study of polynomials, which is most of the course. So make sure that we have the constants, variables, terms, coefficients, those terms down, degree down, and then monomial, binomial, trinomial.